In the race to populate space, India has made sure that it plays its part at the fullest, being one of the most populated countries in the world, along with a tremendous booming economy in the past few decades. The country has doubled its efforts in exploring space. However, a major setback has been experienced by the Indian Space Research Organization when their iconic Chandrayaan-3, which made history for India achieving a soft landing on the moon, went silent. But what caused this tremendous mission to such a conclusion? Welcome back to our channel. Join space exploration journey with us and discover challenges and mysteries of cosmic adventures. Chandrayaan-3 has been shunned on the moon for a couple of months now, getting endless prayers from home and immense love and support from the people of India over social media. There's no denying the fact that the moon has a very harsh environment. A night on the moon is nowhere near what we experience on Earth. It's a 14-day night over there. It might sound something not so concerning for some people, but someone who knows how space expeditions work, they would certainly understand the severity of this issue. Due to the unavailability of sunlight, the temperature drops down to 230 degrees Celsius, and the rover has no option to charge itself. However, the mission became totally dependent on surviving the harsh night on the moon. Cutting the long story short, Chandrayaan mission was not only planned for 14 days, but it had to survive the lunar night days, as these were some tremendously valuable days for the Indian Space Research Program. Knowing for a fact that it landed on a piece of moon which was completely unknown to the human race, meaning that it had to do a lot of treasury research for the crew waiting here. So, how much did India spend on becoming the fourth nation to land its rover on the moon after the US, China, and the Soviet Union? Surprisingly, this mission was conducted with an extremely low budget. ISRO only spent $75 million on this project, and when we compare it to what China has spent on their rover, it's even less than its half. Fascinating, isn't it? Indians are truly magnificent in saving money and looking for quick and cheap solutions to every problem. Still, the main question arises, why the South Pole of the Moon? What's so special about it? Well, space agencies around the world are racing to get to the South Pole of the Moon, as what beholds in this region might open a gateway for endless space exploration and start a new era of space research. It's all due to the prediction that this region has ice just below its surface, meaning that it can be used for drinking and rocket fuel. Good news, right? But unfortunately, it's not confirmed yet, and for that missions like Chandrayaan are on their way. However, coming back to our Chandrayaan-3, it's worth mentioning that via Chandrayaan-3, the mini-rover Pragyan was tasked to gather research from the ground and send it back to Chandrayaan, as it wasn't able to do so directly. The rover was released as soon as it landed on the surface of the moon. It only had 14 days to collect as much sunlight as possible, because the next 14 days were surely to be haunting for Pragyan. The solar array on the rover was only able to generate 50 watts of power, which it used to travel at a speed of 1 centimeters per second. Pretty slow, right? But desperate times call for desperate measures. It's better to have something than nothing. Pragyan was tasked to stay within 500 meters of the lander, as it was responsible for sending the information to the orbiter, which later transferred it to Earth. The two cameras on the front of Pragyan have been life-saving, because only a few days into the mission, the litter rover was about to fall into a 4-meter-wide crater. That would have certainly ended the mission pretty early. But those cameras in the front allowed the crew sitting in India to change the route of the rover. However, these challenges were tackled by the crew back in India. The only major problem was the lunar night, which ultimately became the reason behind the silenced Chandrayaan-3. The rover only has a 10-amp power battery, but that wasn't enough to ensure that it could last 14 days without sunlight. About from the tiny battery, the electronic system in the rover can't work under 230, meaning that the heaters in the rover weren't functional as well. All these issues were the main reason Chandrayaan-3 went quiet. On the other hand, if we look at the rover sent by China, It had a radioisotope heater unit which can heater the rover during the lunar night. But due to India's tight budget, this technology was never in their plan. Still, during the 2 weeks of survival on the moon, there were some incredible achievements of the Indian expedition to the moon. Pragyan, the tiny rover that came out of Chandrayaan, detected different elements using laser technology on the lunar surface. But what elements were found on the moon? Well, you can say a mixture of many elements. It had aluminium, calcium, chromium, manganese, iron, sulfur, silicon, and surprisingly oxygen as well. Still, finding the elements on the surface of the moon wasn't the only plan. Chandrayaan-3 drilled down the surface of the moon to further examine its core. It drilled down 10 centimeters into the ground with a drill that had temperature sensors as well. Only after 8 sicne they found out that the temperature was 10 degrees Celsius, which was way different than on the surface of the moon. This gives us a whole new quest to solve. Yet, Chandrayaan-3 wasn't able to experiment much more on the moon as the lunar night came, terrifying the mission, and we have heard nothing from the Indian historic moon rover as of now. This was the story of India's Chandrayaan-3, which made history by making India the 4th country to land on the south pole of the moon. Want to know more about the upcoming space programs and what's changing in our space? Subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to share your valuable feedback in the comments section. Don't forget to check out the latest videos on the channels, as we expect to see you soon, as more interesting content is coming your way. Thanks for watching. Take care.